Hey guys, and welcome back. And this is part 2 of our mini series, you want to call it, where I'm going to talk about the cars that I've had. So yesterday we talked about my 1996 Mazda Protege, and now we'll move on to my next car. That was a 2002 Chrysler Sebring, and basically it was a huge change going from a small Japanese sedan to a mid-size American land yacht. Why I say land yacht is because, well, the handled kind of like a boat. So you would turn the wheel, and then in a few seconds the car would turn. You would slam on the brakes, the front would dip, the back would raise. You'd accelerate, and you get the opposite. So the front of the car would go up, the back would squat, and it was not a bad car. The way it drove, for the most part, like around city, I wouldn't bring it through a canyon road, but around city it was an okay car. It drove as well as any Sebring would. It had 140k on it, if I remember correctly, when I got it, and it was in good shape. There was no rust on it. It was clean. It was, well, relatively modern for my standards. The car was 7 years old at the time, so it was up to date. It had everything worked, and upgrades compared to Mazda. I had power windows, power mirrors, power locks, air conditioning, CD player. So it was a big improvement over what I had previously driven, and it was a lot quicker than the Mazda. So it was not a fast car by any means, but the 2.7 liter V6, it moved okay. It was a 4-speed automatic, which was the downside, I think, of that car. If it had a 5-speed or 6-speed with the 2.7 liter V6, I think it would have been a very nice car, but it didn't. It was more of a grandpa style car, but it treated well. It drove nice. So those kind of things that I did enjoy, and the handling I didn't enjoy. Where I was really disappointed with the car is when first maintenance that I did on it was I decided I'll change the front brakes, and that proved to be a challenge in just taking the wheels off. All the lug nuts were seized on, so although the body had no rust, a lot of the suspension components, including the wheels, essentially the subframe components, it was quite badly seized together. So I took some effort to get the lug nuts off, to get the brakes off, change the brakes, because the original ones I thought they were not in the greatest shape. And then even with putting on a good quality new set of pads and rotors, every time I'd slam on the brakes, it was still at a point where the car would slow down just fine, and around city it was fine to drive, but I would expect that I'd be able to get the ABS to kick in. However, that was not happening, so I'm not sure if it was just a weak brake booster or just the design of the car. But anyhow, that was one small thing that I could live with. The next issue I had with the car was it was around the holiday season, and I was at a set of lights, and I went to accelerate a little quicker than normal, and that caused my exhaust to snap in half. So it was right around the resonator. It snapped off. Had to bring it into a shop, a bit of welding magic, and that was back. I was back on the road for a very small amount of money. My disappointment with that car came was when my starter decided to stop working, or stop starting, rather say. And that was just an overnight thing. One day it was all fine. Next one I went in, click click, and blew the fuse. Put a new fuse, click click, brought it in, and Dodge managed, or Chrysler, whatever you're gonna call it, managed to put the starter in probably the worst possible place in that car, to a point where you had to lower the engine slightly to get to the starter from underneath. So it was not a easy job to do. So parts labor, $700 later, I had a working car, but by that time I was a little disappointed in the starter, and the exhaust and everything seizing and the brakes. So I figured I'd sell the car and I'd get something else. And just as I wanted to list it, I started hearing this ticking noise from the rear suspension. Looked at it, and turns out the strut mounts had gone bad. Luckily for me, they were previously replaced just before I bought the car, so it was still under warranty. So the shop had brought it into agreed to do the labor for free, and they got the parts to do the warranty program, so it didn't cost me anything out of pocket, and I was fixed, so that was good. But anyhow, a few things added up, and I decided it's time to sell it, which is when I decided to do that. So initially I purchased the car for $3,600. It cost me some maintenance here and there. I drove it for about a year, and finally when I did sell the car, I managed to sell it for $4,000. So it cost me a little bit of maintenance, but not overall on the cost of the car much. I did use it for essentially just over a year, and during that time it was okay. Like, it cost me a few dollars here and there, but it looked okay on the road, from the rear at least. From the front, I didn't really like the look, and it drove comfortably. And again, driving a lot of times in snow, I was really happy with the performance in the snow. So it's a front-wheel drive car. I did not have high expectations for it. However, I've never doubted that I wouldn't get through a pile of snow on the road, or even if a grader came by, I was able to drive usually through it without any issues. So snow performance, kudos to it. Everything else, I've seen better. So anyhow, that's my vehicle number 2 that I had, which was the 2002 Chrysler Sebring. Once I sold that, I bought a 2002 Mazda Protege 5, so we'll talk about that tomorrow. And anyhow, thank you for watching. If you feel like you want to see more of the videos of the cars that I've had, come back, subscribe, click the notification button, and see you guys tomorrow.